Today, we are diving into one of the most detailed and, frankly, one of the most socially significant chapters of the Quran. We're talking about the fourth surah, An-Nisa, which translates to the women. And let me tell you, this is so much more than just a collection of verses. It's practically a blueprint for building a society from the ground up. So this is what's known as a Medinan chapter. And that's super important because it means it was revealed at this absolutely pivotal moment in history, when the early Muslim community was shifting from this small, often persecuted group into a real functioning state. Now, while its name, the women, comes from its famous verses on rights, inheritance, and marriage, the chapter's scope is just so much broader. It's really about laying the entire legal, social, and spiritual foundation for a brand new society. So, in this explainer, here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the historical setting of the chapter, then we'll unpack its core legal principles, especially around family and justice. We'll see how it aimed to build a strong, unified community, define its key theological red line, and then finally, we'll get to its big, overarching goal: consolidation. Okay, first up, what is Surah An-Nisa? To really get this chapter, you have to kind of transport yourself back to 7th century Medina. This was a brand new, incredibly diverse city-state just taking shape. The community urgently needed structure, it needed laws, and it needed a shared ethical framework to hold everything together. And well, this sort of delivers exactly that. The chapter kicks off with this incredibly profound statement on human unity. It immediately sets down a core principle. All of us, men and women, we all come from a single source. And this isn't just some poetic opening, you know? This idea of shared kinship is the absolute bedrock for all the laws that come after it. It frames them not as these random rules, but as essential steps to protect and strengthen the bonds of one single human family. So, from that big universal idea of kinship, the chapter gets super practical, laying down some really detailed social laws. An essential theme just pops up right away: protecting the most vulnerable people in society by clearly defining and then upholding their rights. A huge focus is on social justice for orphans. For instance, verses like 4:2, they strictly command guardians not to cheat an orphan out of their property or, say, swap their valuable stuff for worthless things. This was a critical reform. It established a legal and a moral duty to protect kids who had lost their parents. Okay, now this is where the chapter gets incredibly specific. And you gotta understand, in a society where women and children were often completely cut out of inheritance, these verses were nothing short of revolutionary. I mean, just take a look. They established fixed, undeniable shares. A single daughter with no brothers, she gets half the entire estate. Parents are guaranteed a piece if their child passes away. This wasn't just friendly advice. This was codified law. It guaranteed economic rights and made sure wealth was spread out fairly within the family. All right, so beyond just the family unit, the chapter scales up. It starts providing a blueprint for a cohesive, resilient society. It tackles big issues like governance, obedience to leadership, and the challenges of keeping everyone unified against threats from both the outside and, well, from within. And this right here is a pivotal verse on governance. It's often called the obedience verse. It sets up a really clear framework for leadership and, crucially, for resolving conflict. It tells believers to obey God, the prophet, and their leaders. But, and this is key, it also provides the escape hatch for what to do when you disagree. You refer it back to the original sources, the Quran and the prophet's example. And this just lays it out so clearly, right? You can see the chain of command and arbitration. It's a system that's designed to create order and to prevent society from just fracturing over disagreements. The ultimate authority always goes back to the divine source, which gives the whole community a stable reference point. But, as you can imagine, not everyone was on board with this new order. The chapter repeatedly warns about a group called the munafiqun, or the hypocrites. These were people who claimed to be part of the community, but behind the scenes, they were secretly working against its interests, a really major internal threat. And this slide really breaks down the stark contrast the chapter draws. On one hand, you have true believers who submit to God's judgment. On the other, you have hypocrites who would rather go to false authorities. Believers stand firm to defend the community. Hypocrites run from their duties and actually feel happy when the believers suffer. By drawing these sharp lines, the chapter is defining what it really means to be a committed member of the community. So along with defining the ideal community member, the chapter also draws a very, very clear theological line in the sand. It specifies the one sin that stands completely apart from all others and how serious it is. Now, this point is so critical, it's actually stated twice in the chapter, almost verbatim, just to make sure it sinks in. It says that while God's mercy is vast enough to forgive pretty much anything else, there is one sin that is unforgivable if you die without repenting from it, and that's associating partners with him. This sin is known as shirk. It's basically the ultimate violation of pure monotheism, which is, of course, the absolute core principle of Islam. You could think of it as the ultimate betrayal, placing something or someone else on the same level as the one and only creator. So we've got family law, we've got governance, we've got theology. But what does it all add up to? What's the big picture here? All of these detailed instructions, from inheritance shares to the rules of engagement, they're all building toward one primary goal. And the influential commentator Sayyid Abul Alamodudi puts it just perfectly. He argues that the central purpose of this entire chapter is the consolidation of the Islamic community. Every single verse, whether it's on family or justice or faith, is like another brick in the foundation of a strong, stable, and unified society. And it all comes together right here. By stabilizing the family, setting clear laws, creating a system of governance, preparing for defense, and drawing those theological lines, the chapter provides this comprehensive guide for building a resilient community from the ground up. You see, each piece is designed to strengthen the whole. And that leaves us with a final big thought. Surah An-Nisa provided this incredibly detailed legal and ethical framework for its time. So the enduring question for Muslims and scholars today is this: how do these foundational principles of justice, family stability, and community cohesion continue to get debated, interpreted, and applied in the vastly different contexts of our modern world?